Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and it's another day and another project. I'm still waiting on the fuel tank to show up for cherry pie. I need a break from this old girl over here. So I decided I'll work on something of my own today. Give me a little bit of free time. Or not free time, but just give me a little bit of time to kind of work on something that I really want to work on. And it's just, I don't know how to explain it. Just to get the mind back right and keep the mood flowing and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, that being said, bam, burnout truck. I'm going to pull the motor and trans out of the burnout truck. This transmission's not gonna stay in here. It's not going back in here. It's going elsewhere to another project. This motor is staying in here, but I need to build the head. I need to put the new cam in. I need to clean it up. I need to figure out what I'm doing. I think I'm gonna rerun the old timing gears, but stuff like that. I need to get Basically, I need to get it out, get it all cleaned up, get it painted, get the head put together, kind of get it final assembled motor-wise. Like I said, we're just gonna run that motor because the first thing that we're gonna do with this is burnout competition. So I'm gonna get this motor out, tranny out, we'll go through the motor, get it cleaned up, painted, whatever, put together, yada yada, and then yeah, basically that. The reason I'm not going all out on the motor is because we're doing the burnout competition and I have every intent of blowing it up. I have another inline 6 block. I have a bunch of goodies for another inline 6 motor. If this one doesn't blow up in the burnout competition, we're gonna see what kind of numbers it'll run on the drag strip. As it is, we still wanna build the all out inline 6 to go race on the drag strip and do burnouts and all that and see what it'll do. And then at the end of the day, when everything else is done, we got this old 454. It's got a lot of good parts on it. It was a nitrous fed monster that they used to do the mud drags in a big 4-wheel drive Blazer. A lot of good parts. It wiped the cam out. So we managed to figure out it was wiping the cam out right about the time it wiped the lobes on the crank too. So it needs a crank, needs a cam, but it's got great rods, great pistons, great heads, got a lot of good stuff. And the end game for the burnout truck is gonna be that it's actually a 468, it's been bored out, but the 468 over there is the end game for the race truck. So, yeah, enough blabbing, let's get the motor and tranny out. I still love that feature. In my mind, that's one of the coolest projects I've ever done. It's just cool, but anyways, we'll keep working. I'm gonna go ahead and get all my bell housing bolts out here first, because they're nice and easy to get to on this, being an inline 6. And then once I get the transmission pulled out, we'll once I get the bell housing bolts loose, we'll take out the drive shaft starter. There's really not a whole lot left hooked up to this thing. So we'll get all this yanked out of here and You know what I'm saying. I made some progress. I didn't really film, but I got the transmission out. Well, not out, unhooked, sitting down there on the tranny jack, and doesn't have room to come out. So rather than sliding it off the transmission jack and dumping oil all over, tranny fluid all over my floor, I'm gonna wait till I get the motor out, and then I'll jack the back of the truck clear up and be able to roll it out from the side. So, tech tip: if your transmission mount's worn out and your motor mounts are worn out and you need to change the filter in your transmission fan or in your transmission, just go ahead and take a torch and hack a big old chunk out of your tranny cross member. That'll help you get to the bolts. Don't ever do that. Some people's kids, but what can you do? So I got the transmission unbolted and out of the way. So got the cherry pickers right over here. Got a chain on my motor already. We're gonna roll the cherry picker in there, hook it up to the motor. All I gotta do is take the bolts out of the motor mounts. And I think that's it. We'll lift her right out of there. Okay, I'm gonna get this thing hanging from my heavy duty engine stand here. Now we can get started on the process of clean up, tear down, whatever the heck we want to do. But first off, I'm going to take this flex plate off of here. I forgot about that. So we'll get that done. It looks like somebody tried to drill some holes in it. I don't know what in the heck they were doing. Maybe they thought with it being an inline 6 that they could like lighten the flywheel. I don't know. Flex plate, whatever you want to call it. But I'm definitely not going to be using it with holes drilled in it. And I have an SFI one anyways, so we'll be using that. Nice when you got your fenders all cut up, when you drop stuff down in them, it's not gone forever. Alright, now what were we doing? Oh yeah, putting it on the engine stand. Back to that. I can already feel this thing's pain when we start shooting nitrous at it. Which one of you little guys is going to break off first? I'm going to gamble on number one, just because I've had a lot of experience with these inline sixes. I've never sprayed a bunch of nitrous at one, but just driving them hard, I know that number one's usually the first one to go. Because of the intake design with the carburetors on them, number one and number 6 don't get as much fuel as the inner cylinders, and they lean out really bad. So hopefully, haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do it yet, but hopefully I will be fuel injecting this motor with a log style intake manifold on it, which will force it to have equal amounts of fuel in each cylinder, and with a log style intake manifold it'll get all the air at once. So these holes are really dirty. I should have cleaned them out first, but you hammer on them hard enough, they clean themselves out. Just like that. We'll call that good. Ain't going nowhere. Alright. See if we can get some up on here. Fun part is trying to get this down. The width of the stand and the width of the cherry picker don't agree with each other. So get that sitting upright. I need to go get a 3/4, tighten that down, and then I'm gonna get all the other crap out of the way, and I'll bring you guys back and show you what we're doing next. Alright, I got the motor out here where I can start cleaning up on it. I got the coolant plug pulled out of the side, let it drain down, and then I tilted it sideways. The coolant plug's in the middle over here on the side, so I tilted it, see what I can get to run out of there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start with the deck surface here, scrape it all down real good, get it cleaned out, and then I'm going to stand the motor back up, and I'll just start at the top and work my way down. I'm going to go ahead and get everything cleaned up really good this time before I take the oil pan off, because the inside of this motor doesn't look real dirty. So yeah, I just don't want to get anything inside the motor. So I'm gonna start at the top, work my way down, and I'm not gonna take the oil pan off until I get it clean. And then I'm gonna take the oil pan off, clean it, and we'll get new gaskets. I already got a new head gasket. The head, you saw me pull it off, I think, before I took the motor out. I've got a good head gasket. I've got copper coat to put on it. I'll let you guys know the specs on the cam. I don't know if I have already, but not in this video, but before. but I'll let you know the specs on it when I put it back in. And it's not, oh my goodness, it's the biggest cam in the world, but it's a big cam for an inline 6. So when we get ready to put it in, I'll give you guys a little bit of specs on that. But for right now, I'm just cleaning, and I really want to get this all cleaned up so I can paint it, because I've always wanted to paint a motor this color, and this is finally the opportunity where I'm like, yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna paint this one that color. So I'm not gonna do like I did with the other motor and black and white everything until it's done and I reveal it to you or nothing like that. I'll show you when I get ready to paint it, but I don't want to tell you now. I want to show you what it is. So yeah, we'll do that when we get there, but for right now, I'm just gonna go spend probably the next hour and a half, 2 hours cleaning every nook and cranny of that thing, getting it spotless. And then I gotta go get a oil pan gasket. I really just need a whole gasket kit, but oil pan gasket and a timing cover gasket and a valve cover gasket would probably tie me over for now and be good enough to paint. So we're gonna figure that out and get it cleaned up. It's the end of the next day from the last thing that you saw filming. I'm still battling with my back. I don't know what the heck is wrong with it, but it's not doing good, and I'm pushing with everything I got to keep going. Just because I want to make videos and because I need to do it for me. I can't just sit around the house and do nothing. It's got to be something that's out or something like that. I'm not a huge fan of doctors, period. Don't really like the chiropractor thing, but if it continues the way it is, I might have to go get it looked at. But in the meantime, I'm gonna do like I've always done, just do the best I can, and it'll work itself out, but we'll see what happens. So I'm only getting about 4 hours a day worth of work in. So we're at the end of day 2 on my one-day project that I wanted to do. And I didn't film anything today. Like I said, I've been here about 4 hours because all I did was clean the block and the oil pan, and I already filmed enough of that for you guys. I didn't need to just keep filming me cleaning the block. So I got the block clean. I took the oil pan off, cleaned it really good, put it back on with a brand new gasket, made sure everything was good and sealed up good, replaced, added bolts where they were missing, yada, yada, yada. And I told you guys I wanted to try a new color that I've wanted to paint an engine, and I've never done it yet because it just didn't fit anything that I wanted to do, but in my vision it fits this good. So I already went ahead and painted the oil pan because I rolled the motor back over, and that way the bottom is painted when I get the head and the timing cover and all that stuff back on. Hopefully tomorrow I can go ahead and paint it without having to flip the motor again. So I'm gonna show you guys the progress I made, and you'll get a little sneak peek of what color we're going with, but we're not gonna talk about that until later. So here it is. Block's all cleaned up. I resurfaced the deck, and by resurfaced, I mean took a straight edge and some 320 grit sandpaper and just roughed it up, made sure it was smooth. Block is as clean as it can be. I mean, it's got some surface rust on it, so I'd say I did a halfway decent job. And then down here, we've got our oil pan. It's cleaned up and painted. Same thing on the other side. The other side's all clean. Oil pan's all clean. You can see the new gasket over here. So, it took me probably 4.5 hours to get all that done between yesterday and today. I'm not working very fast, and I'm being really thorough. So I checked everything out. The motor seems good enough for what I'm planning on doing with it, which is probably blowing it up like we've mentioned before. So seems good enough to blow up. Once again, this motor is a spot filler slash prototype slash, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's like a mock-up block, I guess you would say, but I'm gonna blow it up before we go to the bigger, better, badder one. So I'm using this to get everything right and tuned and all that good stuff, and I'm still trying to save up money to get some parts for the good one and stuff like that. So we'll blow it up, but it'll be fun. But I'm gonna stop blabbing. I'm gonna go home and try to do something with this problem I've got and rest a little bit. Be back first thing in the morning. We're gonna assemble the head, get the cam out, all that kind of stuff. All right, I got the head laid out over here. I know it's rusty on the outside, but that doesn't matter. Our studs are good. Our guides are all new and good. They're not rusty. I took a tap and chased the threads for the spark plug holes a few minutes ago. And all our valve seats have been cut because I had them opened up for bigger valves. So we got our valve seats. They're clean. I've got brand new stainless steel valves to put in it. But what I'm going to do now is go ahead and lap the valves and mark them in the hole that I lap them in, and then we'll start assembling the heads, and that way I've got each valve lapped to the hole it's going to go in. So that's what we're going to do. I got new valve seals, new valves, all that good stuff. So I'm going to set up a camera. I'll show you guys how to lap some valves, and we'll move on. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys the wrong way to lap valves. I wouldn't take what I'm doing and go do it. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, and I'm not saying it's the right way to do it. But this is the quickest way to do it. This is the way I do it. So once again, don't recommend doing it this way, but got valve lapping compound. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like lube with sand grit in it. So I take it, kind of rub it around the valve here a little bit on the seating surface. Take my valve here, slide it in my guide, and I need a paper towel. Hold on one second. Now, this is the part where you take your little suction cup and you stick it on the end of the valve and you sit there and you go like this forever until it's good to go, until everything seems to come out all right. And this is where I take my drill chuck the tip of my valve in it, and push it out. I'm gonna have to go back and clean all these really good. I'm just wiping it down to look at it and see if it did anything. And I don't know if you guys will be able to see this on there, but there's a line right down here, and there's a line right in here. So that means it kind of ground it down and seated it, which is what you want. So that's going to be my exhaust valve intake. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to take and mark this one number 1. Because when I get done lapping all these, I'm going to take them all out and I'm going to clean all the valves and I'm going to clean all the seats in the head. So I want to make sure I have them marked so they go back in the same hole that I lapped them in. I don't think it'll really matter that much, but I just think they seat better if you do it that way. So I'm pretty sure that's the right way to do it. So, but I'm not going to talk you guys through doing every single one of these. I'm going to work my way down the head and do the exact same thing. Put some lapping compound on here, put it in there, chuck it up in the drill, spin it a couple times, check it, and that'll be it. So here we go. Okay, now I got all the valves lapped, got them numbered. You can see they all seat in there real good. Another trick you can do if you want to is you can take, after you lap them, you can take a flashlight on your intake and exhaust ports and shine the flashlight in there. It helps if you turn your lights off or whatever, but shine your flashlight in there on your intake and exhaust, through your intake and exhaust ports, and you can look around your valves and see if you got any light showing, and if you got a decent amount of light showing, then they're not seated good. These, they're seated good enough for what we're going to do with it, right? Blow it up. So I got them all marked. I'm going to pull them all back out. I'm going to clean the seats really well, clean the valves really well, and then we'll throw it back together, or we'll get all the valves back in, and then we'll throw our seals on, get our springs, our retainers, all that kind of stuff, and I'll show you all that jazz. Got everything, well, I got the head all cleaned up, valve seats, all that stuff, and I cleaned up the valve seat for this valve. Now what I'm going to do is I got umbrella seals here for the valves. I'm going to go ahead and, this is the front of the head, I know, because that's where the water net goes. It's my valve I labeled number 1. I'm going to go ahead and pop that in there. And then get our umbrella seal, push down on there. Make sure it's not folded up or bunched up or anything. And then we've got dual springs, comp 986-16. When I pull out the cam card, I'll show you guys, or I'll tell you what the cam is. But these are the springs that the cam call for. Now the problem I'm having is these springs won't fit over the umbrella seals, which is not good. That one will, but the inner won't. Alright, let me see what I gotta do. I'll be right back. Alright, I put about 200 miles on the car today, driving back and forth to get parts for this that I thought I had and didn't, and had but were wrong, and whatever else. But I think we're finally back in business where we can put stuff together and get it done and not have any issues. So I got the right valve seals now. I went ahead and put that one on just to 100% make sure we had the right ones. And so I'm gonna move to the next one real quick, and I'll show you guys how I put the valve seal on. And then I'll go ahead and install my springs and all that. So there's this little clear dealio that comes in the valve seals. Put it over there just so that the valve doesn't tear your seal. And then I'll hold the valve in with one finger and push that on. Now I've had people tell me that you take a socket and push that over there, but I did the first one. I just kind of put the first one on there by hand to see how it was going to go, and it went right on, so I just pushed it on by hand. It works fine. And I got my dual springs. I already showed you guys those. I had to go get different locks because the ones that I had were wrong. I don't remember if I videoed that part or not, but I went through that earlier. So we got these now that are right to fit with my springs and retainers. So I'll grab two of my locks here. I got my little valve spring compressor tool. That helps if you do it right. Got to put a retainer in first, and then put this on here. Like so. And then can't tell if I got that in or not. No, it's not. Maybe that isn't far enough. Yeah, it is. Okay, I'm just looking at it wrong. Put our locks in. Carefully undo that. And that one's in there. Now what I like to do, you want to be really, really careful doing this, because if you hit it wrong, it'll blow everything apart. I just like to tap on it just a little bit, just to make sure, just to make sure that everything is seated properly. So I'm gonna do one more for you guys real quick, and then I'll speed it up a lot a bit and burn through this. So Butterfingers. Okay, got those first two done. I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up. We'll burn through the rest of them, and yeah, move on to the next thing. I'll take you guys over here and show you, since it ended on a time lapse, but the head is installed as far as it needs to be or assembled. I'm sorry, not installed. The head is assembled as far as it needs to be to put it on the motor. So that's pretty much done. Next thing I gotta do is prep the block the rest of the way to accept the head. By that I have ARP studs, and then I've got this gasket that came over on the Santa Maria or something, and some copper coat. So I'm gonna take this gasket outside real quick and I'll spray the copper coat on it, and then it can hang out there to dry. And then I'll bring you guys back and we'll start putting head studs in. All right, I got my fastener Ultra Glide that came with the bolts, or the studs. And there's two studs that are shorter. They go on the passenger side in the very front and very back corners. So I want to get those done first so I don't mix up later. So just put a little bit of this on here. Start threading it down in there. Good enough for now. Do the same thing with this other short one in the back. Put a little bit of lube on it. Start threading it in. And then zoom, 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 we're going to do the rest. Alright. Anytime you're doing head studs, you want to put that lube on, like I said, and 9 out of 10 times they have Allen on top where you can screw them in. You don't want to tighten these down, you don't want to torque them, you just want to run them down until they touch bottom. Stop. We'll just keep going through the same process with all of them. Just run them down until they touch bottom. Some people even say back them off just a little bit so they're not touching bottom. I run them down until they touch and I stop. No tightening, nothing. Right there. So once again, same sequence. Well, if you were paying close attention in that time lapse, I only got about half of the bolts put in. And you may have also noticed that the last one that I was working on was going in really hard. So when it started really being hard to go in, I did what you should do and I stopped and I slowly backed it out and cleaned it off. And no, I didn't do any of that. I said, heck, it's gonna go, and I started cranking on it right up until it snapped my Allen bit off, which did me no good because now I've got a stud with an Allen bit busted off in it, but it broke off flush, so that's a good thing. But let's take this story back like 10 minutes before that. I was having a conversation with myself, which it wasn't out loud or anything like that, so don't think it's weird. But I was like, hey Aaron, you should grab a tap and clean out all those holes where the head studs go. And I'm like, nah, I don't think I have a 1/2 inch tap. And if I do, I think some of them holes or all of them holes bottom. I know I don't have any bottom taps. I got a buddy that's got a tap, but I don't want to go over there to get it because then I'll get distracted and I won't get back to work. And I'm like, but the tap and die set's right over there in the file cabinet. And I'm like, nah, it'll be fine. Yeah, it wasn't. Holes were dirty. I snapped it off. So I stopped right there. That would be this one. I don't know if you can tell, you know, without me pointing it out, but it'd be this one. Stopped right there. I had to double nut this, pull it back out because it was in there. And then I didn't have these in, so I actually walked over and looked in my file cabinet, and I had a 1/2 inch 13 tap. And I came over here and looked, and every single one of these holes goes down into the water jackets. So I didn't need a bottom tap. So I got my tap and I tapped out all these holes here. And then I said, wait a second. All those go down into the water jackets. I'm gonna need more than that Molly fastener lube on there because I at least want to give this thing some sort of chance. I mean, if I just set it up to leak water the first time I put water in it, I'm not even giving it a chance to live. So I cleaned all the Molly off all the studs, put thread sealant on all the studs, put these studs in, got over here and said, well, I got to pull all those out to clean them and put thread sealant on them anyway. So then I ran the tap through the ones that I already had in and down all the way. Needless to say, it's 25 minutes later now, and I'm pretty much back where we left off. But now we're ready to move on. So I got the head studs in. I got my gasket all copper coated and ready to go. We can set it on. Then we can bring the head over here, set it on. Now we can see about torquing that puppy down. All right, after all that extra that I did, my gasket's nice and dry now with the copper coat. So, I don't see anywhere on it that says top, but that shouldn't really matter because with the dowels it can only go one way. So, pretty much has to go like this. That hurt. All right, we got that on. I'm gonna go grab the head, bring it over and set it on. This is really making my back feel a lot better. All right, there it is, all done. See if this little one will do it or if I'm gonna have to go get an actual. Guess the little one will do it. She's on there. Okay. Now I definitely need to go around, put some of this on all the bolts. If I'd have been paying attention, I could have put the bolt that had the broken off bit where it would be under the valve cover, but it's fun in that. Can't just hide all my mistakes, I gotta make sure everybody can see them. All right. Get our washers on there. I would tell you what we're doing right now, but you might take it the wrong way, and you can see, so we'll just leave it at that. Alright, well, I was unsure of the torque specs, especially in being that it's studs, which sometimes that change varies a little bit. So I found a couple different forums, and it seems like everybody's saying that it should be torqued to 95 foot-pounds, and they're saying just torque it to 95 foot-pounds in a spiral pattern. That's not what we're going to do. I always tightened head bolts in sequence, so since it doesn't give me a sequence, I'm going to do 3 stages. I start out at 35 in the middle, work my way out, and then we'll go to 60 or 65, start in the middle, work my way out, and then I'll go to 95, start in the middle, and work my way out. So that's how I'm going to do it. It's not right. Most of the torque stuff that I do is not right anyway, so I mean, honestly, the only time you're ever even going to see me use a torque wrench is on a head, or, you know, main caps and stuff like that. But I'm not the type that uses a torque wrench to put on a valve cover or a timing cover or something like that, or a lot of other stuff that you should actually do it with. Looks all flat and even like it should. We'll bump it up to 65. Give her another go. Alright, 65 done. Run her up to 95. We'll get the final torque on her. All right, go back and check a couple. All right, head's torqued down. We'll move on to putting the cam in, I guess. All right, you guys saw me put the cam in. The cam really, it's not your typical cam. It's not like a V8 cam where you just grab it and throw it in and screw the gear on the front, it's good to go. These cams, I wouldn't call them pressed on because it's not like tapered fit or nothing. There's a Woodruff key and it just kind of presses on, but not really presses on. But I had trouble getting it off the old cam. I had trouble getting it on the new cam. You guys probably can't see it, but there's a really small little divot that I'm gonna call a timing mark right there. And then you got your mark there. I got those lined up. And just so anybody that knows about inline sixes doesn't try to catch me, I did put the cam retainer screws in. They're in, they're tight, they're Loctited. They'll be a pain in the butt to get back out if they ever got to come back out. I was going to stay here tonight until this motor slash video was done. And now I'm not going to. It's getting late. My dogs need to get let out at home and I'm the only one that lets them out. They've been locked up all day. My back's hurting, yada, yada, yada. Not crying. We'll come back in the morning. I got a lot of parts to still clean up and paint. So we'll come back in the morning. We'll get this finished up. I also need to charge this camera battery because it's dead. So yeah, we'll finish it up here in a second. Okay, a little bit of an update. I've been here for a couple hours, but I haven't filmed anything because I've spent most of the morning looking for parts, not like trying to find stuff I could buy, like looking for the parts I already had. And I still got some parts to clean up and stuff to put on. But a couple things I wanted to go over. While I was looking around, I found the paperwork that came with the ARP head studs, which I took out of the box and set down over there yesterday because it had a sticker in it and I wanted the sticker. But I went and saw it and I was like, ooh, sticker. So I went to go stick it on the refrigerator and I was like, oh, what's this paperwork? So I started looking through it and the paperwork actually tells you where the two shorter studs go and how to torque them. So in case anybody else is gonna build an inline six and use ARP studs, the two shorter bolts go here because they go all the way through down into this water pump hole. Now, this one was fine. This one, you can see it's got a lot more thread sticking out of the nut than the rest of them do. I had to leave that stud up because otherwise it went down into the opening for the water pump, and when you put the water pump in there, the impeller hit it. So I had to back that one out. I bolted the water pump in and slowly screwed that down until it touched the water pump, and then I backed it off about a half a turn to where the water pump could spin free. And then I did it kind of like a poly lock. Like I put a wrench on here, held the stud, got it tight, and then we retorqued it. I also found out that the torque specs for these, like I said, I looked online yesterday because I didn't know, and I found 95. So what I did was 35, 65, then 100. Well, the paperwork said 35, 70, 110. So I'm kind of proud of myself. I was close, but I went ahead and got my bigger torque wrench out and I torqued these down to 110 instead of, hold on. Torqued these down to 110 instead of the 100 that they were at. So they should be right where they're supposed to be. Everything's good. Now, I got the cam in. You guys saw that. I talked a little bit about the cam. Got it all bolted down. I just wanted to show you guys. I got this cam from Mr. Sibley over there at Sibley's Customs that I talk about all the time. And he's had this thing sitting on the shelf for a long time. And I mentioned before, it may not be a huge cam, but it's a big cam for an inline six. So I just wanted to show you guys. This is the box that it came in. You're not gonna find a comp cam that actually spells out competition cams on it anymore in a box like that, I guarantee it. This sticker was in the box, it's a really cool vintage sticker. And the cam actually has a cam card. It's not just a piece of paper or a sticker with the numbers on it. So I told you guys I'd go over the cam card with you. So I'm gonna go over the cam card. When's the last time you seen a cam that had everything, a cam card that had everything handwritten on it? So it's for a Chevy 230, 250, this is a 250 with a 292 head. So our gross valve lift is 578 intake, 578 exhaust, which that's a lot of cam for this little motor. Duration at 50s, 235, 235. Lobe lifts 30 and 30, 330, 330. And the lobe separation is 106. This is where I figured out the valve springs. It tells me I need a 984 for my outer spring, 974 for my inner spring. I think I showed you guys the box yesterday, but I bought the kit that had both springs already together, so the number's a little bit different. And that number, yeah, it's a 986. So the 986-16 is the kit that has them both. And it says it wants the installed height of the springs at 1.8 with 130 pounds, I think 130 pounds. Yeah, installed height is 1.8. Which equals 130 pounds, which I don't have all the tooling to check all that stuff perfect, whatever, but that's the part numbers that we're supposed to use. That's the part numbers that I got. And for this motor, that's gonna be close enough. So I've got a pile of parts out there. I've got to clean up to get ready to paint. Got a pile of parts over here. I got to clean up to get ready to install. I got a brand new box of lifters over there that are ready to go in. So I'm gonna get back to cleaning up parts. When I get everything clean and ready to go, we'll start bolting stuff on, shoot some paint on it, put the rest of the stuff together, and that'll be it. All right, I got all my push rods cleaned up. I got my rockers pretty much cleaned up. I went ahead and put my new lifters in, and got my push rods in because once they're clean, I didn't want to just set them back down somewhere. So I put the lifters in, cleaned up push rods. I got the balancer, the water pump, the timing cover, the water neck, all that stuff cleaned up, ready to put on. I'm gonna bolt it on and then paint it. So the last thing I've got to really do before I bolt all that stuff on and paint it is put my rockers on. So I'm gonna put the rockers on real quick and bolt everything else on, and then we can shoot some paint on it and then it'll be done. Alrighty, you saw I got all the rockers on. I did not tighten anything down or adjust anything. They were all still loose because I don't know how long this motor is going to be sitting. I mean, we still got a lot of work to do on this truck. This isn't my primary project. I'm trying to get it done, but I only work on it when I can. So somebody told me one time or another that if you're just gonna let a motor sit, it's good to back the rockers off so you're not keeping tension on valve springs and stuff like that. I don't remember who told me, I don't remember where I heard it, whatever, and I don't remember the exact reasoning for it, but I've heard that it's not good to leave tension on valve springs. So since I'm not gonna be running this motor, I'm not gonna be using it, whether it's true or not, I'm leaving the valves loose, just like I did on RJ's motor, and then we'll run the rack when it's time to run the motor. So I got that all done. I got my valve cover studs in, got my new gasket set on there. I'm not gonna permanently mount that because I'm gonna have to take it back off to do the rockers. So push rod's that. So all I really have left to do on this motor for now is set the valve cover on, which is most likely not the valve cover that's gonna be permanent because I like the thick aluminum valve covers and stuff. So that one, I cleaned it up and shot some primer on it because it had a lot of surface rust on it, but it's got some dents, it's got paint chipping, it's a good wall hanger. But just in case I can't get a good one, I'm gonna put it on here with the motor and paint it so everything matches. But I hope I don't have to use it. And then I need to put the balancer, the water pump, and the water neck on, and the front timing cover. That would be good too. I got it cleaned up. I already put a new front seal in it. I just have to wipe it down, obviously, because it's laying on the ground. Get it bolted on, and then I have original side covers for here, and I have some aftermarket billet ones that we're going to use, but I'm not going to put those on for now. I'm just going to tape that off because I want to put the billet ones on, and I'm not going to put the billet ones on and paint it. And I don't have gaskets for them right now. I totally forgot about them, and I didn't get gaskets, so I don't have gaskets for that, so we'll tape that. I'm going to tape the distributor hole. I'm going to tape the fuel pump hole. There's a couple other dipstick tube. This is oil pressure sending unit. This is something, I don't know, it had a plug in it or a sensor or something. And I think that's it. So, oh, and then I got all my intake and exhaust ports, spark plug holes. So I gotta tape off and cover all that stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and get everything taped off, get everything bolted on. We'll roll this thing outside and shoot some paint on it. Timing cover's on, balancer's on, water pump's on, thermostat housing is on. All my spark plug holes are filled. I went ahead and put the old plates back on because they had rubber gaskets. I wiped them down, cleaned them up. The tape wasn't really sticking. Plugged off dipstick, oil pressure, whatever that is, fuel pump, distributor, intake and exhaust ports, all done. Wiped everything down one last time with brake parts cleaner. Put my valve cover on. Like I said, it's got chip and paint and whatever else, and it looks rough, but I really don't want to use it. If I end up having to use it, I'll take it back off and strip it all down and sand it and body work it and make it pretty. But we're at a point now, time to make this thing gold. So here we go. All right, the inline 6 little hot rod motor for the burnout truck is assembled and has paint on it. And I'm just gonna say before I show you guys the finished product here that this is a little bit more bright, sparkly, shiny, gold than what I was expecting. But judging by the oil pan and after it had dried, it might calm down a little bit, which I'm kind of hoping it does. If it doesn't, it's gonna be bright and sparkly, but she's bright and sparkly. So here it is. A lot of dang gold. I know the lighting's not perfect in here, so it's kind of hard to tell, but she's every bit of gold. I guess when I saw on the can that it said gold flake, I should have known better. But I've always wanted to do a gold motor and didn't never have the right project to do a gold motor, so this is the project, and I definitely got me a gold motor. So now, this doesn't mean I'm gonna bolt the transmission up to this sucker and slam it back in the truck and we're gonna toss the cage in and close the hood and we're gonna go do burnouts. No, not at all. Like I said, this project's kind of something that I work on when I can. Still waiting on a fuel tank for that. My back's been hurting and I haven't wanted to lay on the ground to drop the fuel tank out of this, and I still got about a week before my deadline on that one, so I wasn't in a huge hurry. And I wanted something that was gonna be fun, that I could do for me, that I could take it easy, and I wasn't gonna have to rush anything. And this was it. So that, and I've been collecting parts for this motor for, I'm gonna say 5, 6 years, something like that. And rather than just having them sitting over there on the shelf, I figured why the heck not put them together. And that motor can sit on the stand over in the corner, all sealed up, just like the motor for RJ did, until I get around to putting it in. So now, when that motor blows up, you notice if I didn't say if, when that motor blows up, I have a freshly machined 250 inline 6 block right here. In my cabinet over here, I have a forged 250 inline 6 crank. I think it's in the cabinet. Maybe, yeah. Wrapped up right here. I don't know if you guys can see it, it's kind of dark in here and the light don't work, but right there, forged crank. And I got a mess right now because I've been digging for parts. Like I said, I've had them for 6 years and moved multiple times. That box of Eagle rods right there, bad stuff for the inline 6. I have that head that, like I said, I don't necessarily want to say it was ported, but they went in and cleaned up all the casting marks and smoothed everything out. It was cut to take 202 160 valves instead of the, I think it was, the big valve was 1.75 before. They cut it out to 202 160. Just cleaned it up. So I told you the specs on the cam, big cam, decent flowing head, way bigger than what the 250 originally had, and all that stuff. So hopefully when this blows up, it doesn't damage the cam, so it can go back in that one. But if anybody's into the inline 6 stuff, hopefully there's somebody out there has something old laying around or something along those lines. I need a set of low compression, flat top, or dished 60 over pistons for a 250 inline 6. And I'm not asking you guys to just send me stuff. I'm just trying to find it. But I need a set of low compression or just mild compression pistons, 60 over for a 250 inline 6. And I'm looking for a cross flow head. I know the cross flow head's gonna be a pipe dream. Maybe I can find somebody to sponsor me to make it or something to see what we can do. I don't know, but I'd really like a cross flow aluminum head. And even if I can't come up with that, I need 60 over pistons for that other block. So if you got anything, my email's in the description below. Send me an email, leave me a comment here on the video. And even if you don't have anything, leave me a comment here on the video. While you're over there, bink, 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 bink on the like button too, because all that helps me out a lot, and I really need it so we can make this channel grow. But like I said, this was kind of a project for me this week. Wasn't feeling the best. I expected it to take me a day or two. It's taken 4. But who cares? We're having fun, right? Got my gold motor that I've wanted for a long time, and yeah, so I got to clean this whole mess up. I'll let this motor dry overnight, and I'll stick it over somewhere that it can be out of the way and wait its turn again, and we'll start on the next one. But until then, thank you all for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, all those good things. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.